like this and want more, then check out the JARcast live stream every Tuesday night at 9 p.m. Central Time on the Jacob Anders Review YouTube channel, where you can also find movie reviews every Monday, Wednesday, Friday, and Sunday. You can also listen to the entire podcast on all major podcasting platforms such as Spotify, Google, and iTunes. So if you prefer audio, whichever one is your preferred, check it out there. Once again, I really appreciate it, and thanks for watching. And as always, stay sexy, YouTube. What's up, everybody? Welcome to Tuesday night's JARcast episode 10. This week on the show, we're going to be looking at the cancellation of a follow-up to an awesome movie that really breaks my heart. A big movie wraps on and a big movie starts. Another franchise is retconning its sequels. Your childhood gets an R rating, and Japan is attempting to slay the US box office. Plus, we got a few other things to look at and a quick little review that I'm going to try out for the next couple of weeks, right here on the JARcast. I got quite a few stories to talk about this week, some big, some small, and one a follow-up, but quite a few more than usual. So let's go ahead and jump into the first story of the night, which is a follow-up to a story that I talked about last week. This is just a quick little one that I wanted to talk about real quick because it is near and dear to my heart, and that is the king is back, as it was last week, but Avatar is king of the world again, probably forever now. According to the news, James Cameron's Avatar once again led the China box office this weekend with sales of $14 million over just a three-day period. The 2009 film has held its own at the top title every day since its March 12th re-release in China. It has grossed a total of $44 million so far, 10 days into its rerun. Now that's $44 million during a pandemic in one single country in, what is this, like, that movie, the 12 years later? So, yeah. And also, just, we're going to touch on it down here in a minute, but this movie, it was beaten, as I reported last week, it was beaten by Endgame last year before last, in 2019. But Endgame only beat it because they re-released Endgame, and they only beat it out by, like, it was a very small amount. It was only like a couple of $1 million. It was an extremely small amount of money. They just barely eked by. So when they re-released Avatar here 10 days ago, it within like one day reclaimed its throne, if you will. Going on, James Cameron said, "We are proud to reach this great milestone." Oh, I'm sorry, this isn't James Cameron. This is somebody else. "We are proud to reach this great milestone, but Jim and I are most thrilled that our film is back in theaters during these unprecedented times, and we want to thank our Chinese fans for their support." Avatar producer John Landau said last week as the film pushed past Marvel's Avengers Endgame. In related news, Raya and the Last Dragon has grossed a total of $17.4 million since its March 5th theatrical debut in China. That's interesting. Where Disney Plus does not even operate, and nor do they have future plans to do so. Maoyan currently predicts, I guess that's kind of like the Nielsen's over there, or not Nielsen's, I guess they do like the box office reports over there, but Maoyan currently predicts that the Southeast Asia-inspired animation may earn only $1 million more over the rest of its run. That's really interesting because Raya and the Last Dragon, while I haven't seen it, I know what it is, and it's very, that movie seems like they were really focusing on that territory. It's a very China, it's very Asian themed. I don't know every single thing about it. I don't know if it's China or Japan or whatever, but it's very Asian themed, and it's only made in, March 5th. What are we at? We're sitting here at the 23rd now, so it's right about 18 days. And it's only made 17.4. They're only saying it's going to make about another $1 million. Let's just cap it off and say $20 million. Avatar in 10 days, and it's still going hot is at 44 million. So I don't know if another movie's ever going to overtake that. I mean, never say never, but I don't know if another movie's going to do it anytime soon. I mean, at this point, because it's going strong, like I said, and they are most likely going to do a re-release of this movie here in the States as we get closer to the sequel coming out next, I think in 2022. December 2022 is when it's coming out. And I would imagine that they're going to re-release it again here, and it'll probably do a lot of money then too. Now, some people have brought up the point that, well, what if they re-release Avengers Endgame? Now, I don't think Avengers Endgame will do this. I think Avengers Endgame was a great movie. I really enjoyed it. I gave it a great review. You can check that out on my channel. But I don't think Avengers Endgame has... Avengers Endgame made so much money, and yes, it was a good movie. I'm not detracting from that. But I think it made so much money because it was the culmination of years and years of buildup. It was the end. It was the end game. It was the payoff. We all wanted to see it. Everybody wanted to see what was happening. The last movie was such a cliffhanger, and everything led to this one movie, and everybody couldn't wait to get there and see it. So that's why it did it. But now everybody knows. It's common knowledge what Endgame's about. I'm not saying people wouldn't go see Endgame if re-released, but I don't think as many people are going to go out and see Endgame if it's re-released. I could be wrong, but I just don't see Endgame pulling in one single country $44 million in 10 days. Once again, I could be wrong, but also Avatar, it's been 12 years since it came out. There's a bit of nostalgia there. It's been a while since people have seen it. You know, I just think that this movie is going to be number one for a long damn time. Plus, the way that theaters are, I don't know if theaters are going to pull in. There's not going to be another movie that's going to come along and make $2.8 billion, which is what they're coming in on with Avatar now. I don't see another movie making that. And actually, we're going to talk about that in another story here in a few minutes. But as I said, all that is just a follow-up to that story from last week and my opinion on how Avatar is going to be the number one highest grossing film of all time for a long fucking time. Moving on from there, we have a cancellation that just kind of really breaks my heart. I really love this movie. It came out last year. Some people got it early. You see it early in 2019. But this one, I've been really looking forward to this because they had announced a trilogy, but now that's not happening. This is there's a caveat, or not a caveat, there's a note, something I have to... This is like two stories in one, and this story is I got to tread lightly here because I don't know, no one knows all the facts as of yet. I'm talking about Color Out of Space and a situation that Richard Stanley, the director of Color Out of Space, has gotten himself into. Let's just read through the story real quick. It's not too long, and then I'll give my opinion and that little note that I was talking about. Spectre Vision, the production company behind the 2019 H.P. Lovecraft adaptation Color Out of Space, announced that it has cut ties with the film's director Richard Stanley after horrifying allegations of domestic abuse emerged about the filmmaker. Let me step in for just a second before I read the rest of this. The wording of this, some of the wording of this article, and really all the few articles I read concerning this it's leading in a way, I feel like. I don't feel as if I feel like there's a side that the people that have written these articles have taken. Just keep that in mind. And I'm not saying that that's the wrong side. I'm just saying we'll talk about it in a minute. Just keep that in mind. In a statement posted to Twitter, Spectre Vision said it will no longer be working with Stanley after Stanley was accused of abuse by his former partner, Scarlett Amaris. Spectre Vision will no longer work with Richard Stanley, the company said. We are proud of the talented cast and crew behind Color Out of Space, yet we are horrified by the charges against its director. We will be donating future revenue from the film to charities devoted to stopping domestic violence. That's good. That's a good cause to go towards. Domestic violence is terrible. The fallout comes in the aftermath of a blog post published by Amaris on Tuesday, which detailed multiple instances of physical abuse by Stanley, resulting in Amaris sustaining injuries like bruises, sprained fingers, throttle marks on her throat, and a concussion. Amaris went on went into detail about the abuse she allegedly suffered at Stanley's hands and revealed that she had filed charges for domestic violence, assault, and battery against him in France in 2014. The charges clearly didn't make much of an effect on Stanley's career, with the South African filmmaker penning the film Replace in 2017 and winning praise for the festival and the festival favorite Color Out of Space in 2019. But Amaris' horrifying post had instant effects with SpectreVision, wisely dropping the filmmaker almost immediately after the allegations surfaced. Read the full post with a trigger warning for domestic violence and abuse here. Stanley has not yet commented on Amaris' allegations, nor could he be reached by outlets like The Wrap or Deadline. Okay, there's a lot to take in here. Let's break this into two, because I want to talk about two things here. First thing is, this sucks, because I loved Color Out of Space. If you saw my best movies of 2020, you'll know that I loved Color Out of Space. I thought it was one of the best movies of 2020, in my opinion. So when they announced that they were going to be doing a H.P. Lovecraft trilogy with Stanley, I was really hyped about it. I thought that, well, that's awesome. Great. That's going to be amazing. But this is all happening, and there's some other things I've read. They're not doing that now, at least not with him. And that sucks. Lovecraft was an interesting guy with some interesting work, and people have had a real hard time putting that work on film for quite a while. There's been a few successes, but Color Out of Space was by and large probably one of, if not the best adaptation of his work, and I was really looking forward to seeing more of that. So it sucks that this happened. Now, the touchy part of this story. If this is all true, let's say this, every bit of this is true, what Amaris, his former partner, is alleging. Let's say it's all true. Okay, fine. I get it. It sucks. I think he clearly has talent to make, at least he did on that day, to make Color Out of Space. But yeah, okay, I get it. I get him having to go. Especially if you read the thing. I did actually read it. It is way too long to put on here. It's a very lengthy post. And it goes into I won't say detail. It doesn't really have a lot of detail. It just says a lot. It gives details, but it's not like I won't say it's quite as detailed as they said. They led you to believe it is, but it does tell a lot of events and a lot of things. But there are some vague comments here or there. And I'm not saying it's not true. It may be. And if it is, that's terrible. The guy should go to hell. But right now, it's all alleged. He's been charged. She has complained against him. There have been charges. He is not guilty. He has not been found guilty of this. Beyond this, what she's saying, nothing else has been lobbied and said or put forward and said, here's proof or here's what's happened. I'm not saying he didn't do it. If he did it, that's awful. I do not advocate that kind of behavior at all. But we're going off of what one person said. And we're seeing more and more nowadays people's lives, especially in the entertainment industry, their lives being ruined over what one person said. Just because that one person said it, does that make it true? No, it doesn't. That's not how court system works. But the court of the public courts, that's how it works. It's whoever gets out there and puts it out there first, they win. You're the bad guy now. We saw this as recently as yesterday and today with the guy from what was it, Grumbly Gaming or whatever. I cannot remember his name. I don't have it here. The guy he has a YouTube channel, I believe it is, and he was called out, and someone made some accusations against him, and everybody was up in arms, and they were in the process of canceling this guy, ruining his life, taking everything from him, and it just so happens that it came out, definitive evidence came out today, and the people did the right thing and came back and said, oh, my bad, no, that was over-exaggerated. He's not guilty. He didn't do anything wrong. That was quick. That was the day after the allegations were thrown out there. Had that gone on for a week, that guy's life would be affected by that forever, even if he did get exonerated. And that's the world we live in now, and I don't agree with that. I just don't agree with that. I think that everybody is innocent until proven guilty. There's nothing besides this one person that I'm aware of, that I have seen, that has been put in front of me, and I looked at more than one article on this situation. Nothing else has been put out there to say that there's any proof that this guy did this. So I don't think it's okay for us to just automatically say, oh, he's guilty. Why? Because she said so in a blog. I mean, anybody can write a story. The woman could be total batshit crazy and lying about it. She might not, and if she's not, I am so sorry. That is a terrible. Some of the things that were alleged in this thing were terrible, and maybe he did do it, but that's not my problem. Yes, it sucks because we're not going to get these movies that I wanted, but there's more important things than movies in life, and if he's going around doing these awful things to people, women or men or whoever, then yeah, that needs to be handled. But he's not charged yet. And these charges were levied at him in 2014. And nothing's come of it. Well, nothing that we know of, nothing that I could find. If there was, it's not public record that anybody's pulled up. So there's just some things here that just don't quite add up. I also didn't like, for the most part, this article, and I took out a couple of just like bullshit lines, nothing that really said anything, just to kind of shorten it up some. But nothing in this article, I mean, for the most part, this article is fine. But there are a few places that it clearly, you're not reporting, you're giving your opinion. And that's not what this is. It's not an opinion piece. You're a reporter. You're supposed to report the news, not report your fucking opinion. And that's what they do here. When they start closer to the end, they start saying that, the horrifying post, I'm sorry, where was it? Winning praise, allegations surfaced, with Spectre Vision wisely dropping the filmmaker almost immediately. Why is it wisely? I mean, are you immediately just saying this guy's guilty because someone said he is? That is a foolish thing to do, and I think that happens. Now, if it comes out that this guy's guilty, I know some people might say, see, you're fucking stupid. He was guilty, and he was doing these terrible things, and you advocated it. I am not advocating him doing those things. But I'm also not advocating automatically believing what someone says someone else did. That is not how law in most free countries, if not all, goes. It doesn't go that way. You are innocent until proven guilty, or at least, you could be suspect, but you're not just guilty because someone said so. It just doesn't work that way, or at least it does. Unfortunately, it does work that way now in the public court, but it shouldn't be. It shouldn't be that way. I'm just saying. I mean, how long? Because we see this right now with famous people, mostly. How long until this starts coming to just you and I? Just regular old people at work. People that work at, offices. People that work at fucking McDonald's or something like that. How long until you start getting canceled? Because, I mean, it starts there, but when it trickles down here and people start losing their jobs just because. I mean, that kind of behavior does happen, but how long until it's rampant like this? Is that when we're finally going to notice and say, oh, wait, now it affects me firsthand, or it could affect me firsthand. Now I have a genuine fear of it. This is an issue. At that point, it's too fucking late. But either way, if the guy did it, fuck him. He needs to go the hell on. But let's figure out, before we just report the fact. Report that, hey, it happened. Spectre Vision? No, man, I don't. Maybe put the movie on hold. I would get that. If Spectre Vision said, hey, you know what? We're putting all this on hold. We're going to see what's going on here. We're going to do our research. We're going to figure out what all's going on. And maybe they did that. Maybe they did it. Maybe they know something we don't. And they said, nope, we're out. But as far as we don't know that. I'm only going off of what the information I'm given. And so far, there's nothing saying definitively that he did it. Now, I mean, somebody might comment on this later on and be like, no, it's right here, and show me a link, and you do that, and I'm like, okay, you got it. Right there. Definitive proof. But as far as I could tell, with the little bit of looking I did, I couldn't find any definitive proof. I just saw a lot of allegations. And allegations are not automatically true, regardless of who says them or when they say them. Just saying. But at the end of the day, either way, if he's doing these things, that sucks. And it also sucks that we're not going to be getting the follow-ups to Color Out of Space. So coming off of that bad news, we're going to jump into something a bit more lighthearted, something that anybody out there who's over, say, the age of 20 will remember this. Maybe not this story specifically, but what this story is talking about, and maybe get a little bit of a kick out of it. And I'm talking about your childhood. Everybody out there over the age of 20, 25, a part of your childhood, or it should have been. But we're taking a nice, wholesome family part of your childhood, and we're going to make it R-rated. Or at least they did. You'll just probably never see it. I'm talking about the one, the only Mrs. Doubtfire. Who doesn't remember Mrs. Doubtfire? Who doesn't love Mrs. Doubtfire? Well, I did when I was a kid. Actually a teenager, I guess I was when it came out, because I'm old as shit. But there's a little something about Mrs. Doubtfire. She has a dark secret that we didn't know about until here recently when Christopher Columbus, the director, got to talking a bit. And apparently there is possibly a Columbus cut. So I'm going to try and start it here today at hashtag release the Columbus cut. Let's jump into this story. Thanks to a viral tweet that resurfaced last week, director Chris Columbus has confirmed that there is indeed an R-rated version of Mrs. Doubtfire in existence. Spicy. Speaking to Entertainment Weekly, Chris Columbus said there is no NC-17 version, but did add that multiple cuts of the movie exist. The reality is that there was a deal between Robin and myself, which was he'll do 1 or 2, 3 scripted takes, and then we would say, let me play. Or then he would say, then let me play. And we would basically go anywhere between 15 to 22 takes. I think 22 being the most I remember, Columbus said. He would sometimes go into territory that wouldn't be appropriate for PG-13 movies, but certainly appropriate and hilariously funny for an R-rated film. I only previously used the phrase NC-17 as a joke. There could be no NC-17 version of the movie. Yeah, I don't know if I want to see an NC-17 version of Mrs. Doubtfire. A rated R one, sure, but not NC-17, knowing what NC-17 entails usually. He went on to say, I would be open to maybe doing a documentary about the making of the film and enabling people to see certain scenes re-edited in an R-rated version, Columbus said. The problem is, I don't recall most of it. I only know what's in the movie at this point because it's been a long time. But I do remember it was outrageously funny material. Columbus added, I think that would be the best approach. I'm very proud of the film. I'm in a good place with Mrs. Doubtfire. So there's really no reason to do a definitive cut. The definitive cut of Mrs. Doubtfire is out in the world right now. R-rated Mrs. Doubtfire. How can you say no to that? I would love to see an R-rated Mrs. Doubtfire, especially seeing as how the movie was such a, I mean, it was PG-13, but it was such a wholesome family movie. To get an R-rated version, and some of you that don't know as much about his, especially his earlier work, will say, Robin Williams doing R-rated jokes and stuff? Really? Man, watch this guy stand up from back in the day. Yeah, the guy got real raunchy sometimes, like hardcore. He could definitely do it. I see it. Or I could see it. I'd love to see that. Now, I mean, according to Columbus, besides maybe a clip or two here or there, if that even happens, we're probably never going to see this shit. And that is even if this footage even exists anymore. Like he said, he doesn't even remember what it is. He hadn't seen it in years. It might not even be there. I mean, the way that studios used to deal with cut footage of movies back in the early 90s and before that, I mean, this shit could either be stored in a shitty place that's all moist and got moisture or just thrown the fuck out. Sometimes they just throw that shit out. I mean, I doubt they ever thought they were going to need these scenes of Robin Williams dropping F-bombs and making raunchy-ass jokes for their PG-13 family film. So I wouldn't be surprised if this stuff just doesn't exist. But the idea of it is pretty cool. I would be totally down for this. And I want to get hashtag release the Columbus cut out there in the world. Will it catch on like the Snyder cut? Probably not, but, you never know. Who thought the Snyder Cut would be made? And we've been empowered now as a people to get the movies we want released. Damn it. So let's get Mrs. Doubtfire, rated R Mrs. Doubtfire released. I want it. I want it now, and I can't possibly be the only one. But in all honesty, this is just I thought this is a really funny, just kind of a lighthearted palate cleanser after that last kind of downer. And I would enjoy. I think this could be some funny shit, because if you see Robin Williams' adult comedy, especially from his earlier career, the guy was really funny, and he had some really funny, raunchy ass jokes he would throw out there, and he was full of fucking energy. If you watch him on screen is one thing, but if you see his stand-up, holy shit, the guy must have been coked out of his mind, because he was full of energy, bouncing around the stage all over the place, like sweating bullets, but man, he was on fire. The guy was just a comedic genius. Fucking hilarious. And I think him dressed up as this old British nanny, just going to fucking town with whatever he wanted, could be just one of the funniest fucking movies of the decade. So let's do it. Let's make this happen. If you're watching this, go out there, make hashtag release the Columbus cut a thing. It might not catch on, but who knows? Maybe it will. We got another story. This is a bit of a longer one, so I'm gonna kind of skip around in it just a bit, because some of the stuff in this one is, I mean, there's a lot of info in this story, and I don't know if we quite need all that. But this is about a title, the final title of an upcoming movie that I'm cautiously optimistic about, but I am looking forward to. It's a video game movie, but it is one of the, arguably one of the most popular video game movie adaptation franchises out there, or the previous version was. This one that is coming out later this year, and I'm talking about Resident Evil, or as they say in the game, Resident Evil. Probably terrible impersonation there, but whatever. We have a name. It's not just going to be called Resident Evil. It's going to be called, and I don't know exactly how I feel about this, it's going to be called Resident Evil Welcome to Raccoon City. Yeah, that's the official name of the movie. Okay, there's worse things it could have been called, that's for damn sure, but welcome to Raccoon City. So why is that? Well, let's jump into this story. It's pretty lengthy, but I'm going to skip around, as I said. The upcoming Jonas Roberts directed, is that how you say Jonas? Yeah, Johannes Roberts directed Resident Evil film now has a name. Resident Evil Welcome to Raccoon City. Roberts revealed the title and details of the movie's plot during a panel with IGN's Lucy O'Brien at SXSW on Saturday. Speaking about the genesis of the title, Roberts, who has directed both of the 47 Meters Down films, said that the setting of Raccoon City plays a big role in the film. Pause. Yes, Raccoon City, as far as the games go, Raccoon City plays a big part of, not really the first one, it kind of does, it takes place there, but it wholly takes place in a mansion and like a facility. But the second game and the third game and a lot of, if not all of Code Veronica, if I remember. No, I think they go somewhere else with that one. But that's it. After the third one, that's it on Raccoon City. But Raccoon City is definitely a big part of Resident Evil, so I could see it playing a big part in this film. I'm fine with that. Now, this sentence I just read, there's a good thing and a bad thing in this sentence here. The really good thing is, well, let's disseminate. It says that she directed both of the 47 Meters Down films. Okay, the first 47 Meters Down, I really enjoyed. Holy shit, that movie was so much better than I ever expected. That was such a good time. The second one, what the fuck was that? It had like blind, roaring, screaming sharks underwater or fish, and that movie was fucking terrible. So I don't know how the quality of the movies here is very polarized. It's on both sides of the spectrum, and so I'm wondering, where is Resident Evil going to fall in all of that? Who knows? Some people would say after the previous franchise that it can't get any worse. It can get worse, by the way. Look at Uwe Boll. But I actually enjoyed the previous Resident Evil movies. I'm okay with them rebooting it here. Seems as Anderson and Jovovich told their story, I guess. So I'm cool with them rebooting it. I just hope that it doesn't do something really stupid. I don't know. We'll find out. We'll see later this year. But moving on with this, it tells us a little bit of information about the story that we did not know. The movie is very much an origin story for Resident Evil, Roberts said. It's an ensemble piece. Raccoon City plays a big part and is a character in the movie. It's about this group of people all coming from different angles, some coming into town, some already having grown up in this town, meeting over this one fateful night. I mean, that sounds great, but we've seen that before. You don't... And that, I'm not saying that Resident Evil does not have to be wholly original. It just has to be fun. But that setup right there is like the setup of every fucking zombie movie ever made. You know what I mean? It takes place in a city, and a ragtag group of people come together. Some of the people are there from the city. Some of the people are passing through. Okay, so yeah, okay, nothing new so far. Doesn't mean it's bad, though. The film will follow the original Resident Evil characters of Claire and Chris Redfield. Jill Valentine and Leon S. Kennedy will play up the horror aspects of the video games, Roberts said. Roberts looked to John Carpenter films such as The Fog for inspiration, as well as the original video games. Miss Roberts and Lucy O'Brien, who wrote this for IGN, a primarily video game website. It says, I don't know. This sentence says the film will follow the original Resident Evil characters. That sentence says to me the original game, the first game of Claire and Chris Redfield, Jill Valentine, and Leon S. Kennedy. I don't want to be a stickler, but I'm a huge Resident Evil fan. The films and the games, played the games. I've been playing for a long time. I played the first one more times than I can even name in so many different versions. Claire and Leon, at least 4 people, Claire and Leon were not original Resident Evil characters. They were not anywhere to be seen in that game. Claire didn't show up until Resident Evil 2? Or was she? Yeah, she was Resident Evil 2. And yeah, Claire and Leon showed up in Resident Evil 2. I mean, I don't have a problem with them showing up, but calling them now, I mean, if she's saying, or if they're saying that original Resident Evil game characters, then okay, that's fine. Maybe I'm reading that wrong. Maybe I'm looking into this too much and I'm picking. Moving on. The big thing for me on this movie is tone. The thing that I loved about the games was they were just scary as hell, and that is very much the atmosphere, Roberts said. It's raining constantly, it's dark, it's creepy, and then mixed with the sort of more fun side, especially with the first game, of what's around the corner, that kind of style of storytelling. So, that whole paragraph there can be summed up in 2 words. Well... yeah, jump scares. That's what fucking jump scares. That's what that is. That's what I take from that. You're going to go for a dark, creepy-ass atmosphere with rain and, like, just a really dark lit movie, which, I mean, if you know how to shoot in the dark, that'll be fine. And you're going to have a bunch of fucking jump scares. Okay, jump scares can be fun, but, you know, they're a perilous thing to go with. You got to watch them jump scares. They can get out of control. Although Roberts said I thought Roberts was a woman. Whoops. Sorry. Did I assume your gender, Mr. Roberts? My bad. But no, I thought Roberts was a woman. Whoops. Although Roberts said he is a fan of the original Resident Evil film franchise, his movie doesn't have anything to do with that. No shit, we knew that. It's a whole separate origin story that's very much based in the roots of the game and the world of horror, Robert said. It's not like I was presented something where we're making it. We're not. I fell in love with Milla Jovovich in the first films and loved that side of the Resident Evil world, but it was a real pleasure to be given the reins to a new franchise. Hopefully, that really is its own thing. I'd never seen the terror and atmosphere of the games of what I felt when I was playing those games. I'd never felt that on screen, and I felt that was something I wanted to tell. I mean, I could see that. The first Resident Evil movie was a bit more horror than the later ones. It was an action horror, which, I mean, the Resident Evil games, the first three-ish, 4-ish, do lean a bit more towards survival horror, and then they kind of turn into more action horror. especially with the fourth one on, and they just kind of got out of control. But, I mean, I can see that. I mean, I'm cool with that. I do feel like him saying this thing about, I think it's cool. He's saying, hey, I fell in love with Milla Jovovich in the first movies and all this and that and blah, blah, blah. And maybe he did. I don't know. But you don't really expect the guy to say anything else. I mean, they're made by the same fucking company. Sony Pictures owns this property, and he's not going to come on there and be like, because the old Resident Evil movies are still their property. They're still part of Sony corporate or Sony Pictures. So he's not going to come on there and be like, yeah, them other movies that this studio made, they fucking sucked. But mine is going to be bomb as a motherfucker. Fire, bitch. Fuck Milla Jovovich and all those shit. And Wes Anderson, he's not going to come out and say that. He's only going to have good things to say. So honestly, that line they could have just kept. I mean, maybe he's being cool. I mean, I guess it's cool that he said that. It shows he's professional. But that doesn't really hold a lot of weight with me. If he's going to go more the horror route, that's fine. Cool. Resident Evil is known for its horror. But like I said, the previous paragraph made it sound as if he's going the horror routes with jump scares, but we'll see. In particular, Robert said that the 2019 remake of the second Resident Evil video game pointed him in the right direction as far as its setting and tone. That's a positive. That was probably the entry point into the movie for me, Robert said. That game came out and it just blew me away. And from that moment on, I think we all knew where we were going with this movie because it was such a wonderful cinematic experience with the tone, the constant dark rain, the sort of aspect of the game, that sort of aspect of the game. And I just took that and went, that's the world I want to work in. Resident Evil Welcome to Raccoon City is scheduled to release via Sony Pictures on September 3rd, 2021. So that means I'm not going to say that. I would say that kind of speaks to me and says the first Resident Evil that he is aware of is the RE2 remake that came out a couple of years ago. And that's a great, I have not played the whole thing, but I played the original RE and I did play some of it. It did seem like a great remake. I just haven't had a chance to get into it, and a lot of people had great things to say about it. So if he's basing his movie off of that, cool. And that does make his comment up top about Leon and Claire being involved a bit more understandable because that's a remake of Part 2, and Leon and Claire are in that. And the other characters from the previous game, of course, are referenced in it as well. I mean, all this, it doesn't really, it's a lot of talk. They're saying a lot, or they're talking a lot, but they're not saying a lot. I guess, what did I take from this? I took that it's probably going to have a lot of jump scares. It's going to be a dark movie. It's going to they're going for a real creepy atmosphere, and it's going to be a lot of creeping around, and like everything's loud, and it's probably going to get quiet, and then loud noises are going to happen. That's what I'm picking up from it. Hopefully not. I mean that could still be fun, but you got to pick. That can't be all the movie is though. I do wonder how heavily it is going to be inspired by the story of the games, because quite honestly, while I love the games, let's be real, the story of the Resident Evil games as a whole gets really convoluted over time. It gets pretty convoluted within the first one, but for a game, it's great. So I do wonder, that this doesn't really tell me much about the story. It talks about tone. It talks about inspiration. And, he had good things to say about it. The biggest thing about this that I didn't like, or that gives me concern, the constant jump scare thing, kind of seems like they're relying on that. I'm hoping not. But the most concerning thing is that this person made the second 47 Meters Down film. But he also made the first one, and I really like that movie. But he made that second one, and it's so fucking bad. But I guess we'll find out. This, like I said, this is a lot of stuff to read here. I cut some of it out, but this is, I guess, all relevant. If you're looking forward to Resident Evil, though, you got a little bit more info on it now. I don't feel any better or worse about the movie after reading this. I just feel kind of, same place I was as before. This doesn't really do anything for me. I don't love the name. I'm not going to lie. Welcome to Raccoon City. Maybe as a tagline, but as the actual title of the movie, Resident Evil, Welcome to Raccoon City, maybe it'll grow on me. I don't know. But as of right now, I don't hate it, but it just seems, I don't know. It doesn't seem as sinister. It just didn't seem sinister enough. And if they were going to go with that, they should have just called it Resident Evil. I guess they were afraid of people getting it confused with the original movie, but, I mean, just welcome to Raccoon City? What the hell? I'd rather them just call it Resident Evil Raccoon City than welcome. I don't know. It just doesn't sit right with me, but, you know, it's just a name. Hopefully the movie will be good. We'll find out on September 3rd. So, right after that, we got another quick one. We're going to go from one video game movie to another. This is one that I am looking forward to. And I mean, I was looking forward to the last one as well. But this one, I'm really looking forward to because I really enjoyed the last film. Now, we don't have many details except for one or two, and that's based on the last movie. And this is a fairly short story, but I wanted to get it out there because I loved this movie from last year, and we're finally getting, the sequel has started filming. And I'm talking about Sonic the Hedgehog 2 has officially started filming as of the 16th of March. Following star Taika Sumpter's reveal that Sonic the Hedgehog sequel would begin filming this month, director Jeff Fowler took to Twitter to confirm that Sonic the Hedgehog 2 has officially begun production. Lights, camera, Hedgehog. Production on Sonic the Hedgehog 2 starts today, says Jeff Fowler via Twitter on the 16th of March. No casting announcements have officially been made, but it's likely that Ben Schwartz will be back as the voice of Sonic alongside Jim Carrey as Dr. Robotnik. Returning alongside Fowler, who was the director of the first film, who made his feature debut with the original film, are screenwriters Pat Casey and Josh Miller, with Neil H. Moritz, Toby Asher, and Toru Nakahara all returning to produce, while Hajime Satomi, Hakura Satomi, and Tim Miller will return to executive produce. to executive produce, not produce. The first Sonic went on to gross over $306 million at the global box office on a $95 million production budget, becoming the sixth highest grossing film of 2020 and the highest grossing video game film adaptation of all time in North America. Sonic the Hedgehog 2 will hit theaters on April 8th, 2022. I am excited about this. I really enjoyed Sonic the Hedgehog, the first movie. It was so much better than I expected. Was it the best movie ever made? No, it was not. But it was a good fucking time, that's for sure. It was, and after that whole Sonic thing, the monster that we saw, the original version, how he was going to look, I was really expecting something. I was scared. I wasn't looking forward to the movie. I was looking forward to it, but I was scared for the movie. I was reserving my judgments until I saw it. But man, they hit that shit out of the park. His design, everything. That was just such a fun movie. And the end of it, man, they knew how to go out on the end. When if you haven't seen the end of Sonic the Hedgehog and you're worried about spoilers, you might want to cover your ears for just a second. But I mean, as you can tell from the fucking the logo here, that Tails is in this one, and Tails shows up in the end of the first one. And that was such an awesome moment. I remember in the theater when that happened, everybody, you just heard this gasp because you weren't expecting it when it happened. It just popped up and everybody just kind of gasped, and people were, and I mean, I wouldn't have thought that a whole theater full of people on opening night would have had that impact of Tails Prowler showing up on screen. I thought people would be like, yeah. But I didn't think he had that kind of reach. But he did. The whole theater was just like, oh, and then it erupted after he said his little line and flew off. The theater just fucking erupted, and that was just awesome. And this was the last movie I saw in theaters before the pandemic started. And to make as much as it did, seeing as how it made that much, and the pandemic started right within a month of it coming out. It was right after it came out. I remember that. It came out, and then it was just a week or two later that things, or maybe 2 or 3 weeks later, things got shut down. So it made $306 million is nothing to scoff at, especially with $95 million production value. Or production budget, they definitely made their money back and made a profit. But that movie probably would have made a whole lot more money had this whole pandemic thing not happen. And I'm really looking forward to this. It doesn't give us much. I'm really happy to see that everybody is returning. Everybody who would. I wonder if the other human characters will be returning or not. It said Tika Sumpter. I'm not sure who that is. I probably should have looked that up before we jumped in here. I'm wondering if that was the woman, the love interest in the movie, not of Sonic, but of the James Marsden's. And if she's saying that they're getting a sequel, I assume she's going to be part of it. And if she is, I assume that James Marsden will be as well. But either way, I liked one of the things about the first movie I liked so much was Sonic's world and all that stuff going on there. And we only got a taste of it. And it looks like all the things that they set up in the end of the first movie, at least, with Robotnik being in that other world and Tails coming, and I've heard about Knuckles being there. It sounds like we're going to get more of that world. Whether that world is coming here, they're going to be going to that world. I don't know, but I'm pretty hyped for it. I'm excited. We got all the same people going back, so all that love, all that passion, all that knowledge of Sonic the Hedgehog will be in this second movie as well. Hopefully they don't fuck it up. I just hope they don't, because they did such a great job with the first one. It's just such an entertaining movie. It wasn't on my top 10, but I did include it in my top 10 video as an honorable mention because the movie was just a good fucking time. And that's what movies are supposed to be, is entertaining. They don't all have to be fucking Schindler's List, but if they entertain me, they've definitely done their job. And Sonic the Hedgehog last year was one of the more entertaining films I saw. It was just a really good time. And if you're a fan of not even Sonic the Hedgehog, if you're a fan of Sonic the Hedgehog, absolutely see it. I don't know where they absolutely, but absolutely see Sonic the Hedgehog. But if you're just a fan of, fun movies, really fun movies with some fun performances, especially from Jim Carrey. Where's that guy been? He does a great job here. If you're a fan of that, check out Sonic the Hedgehog. You have a good time. And I cannot wait to see Sonic the Hedgehog 2 in a little under a year from now on the 8th of April, 2022. So moving on from that story, that lighthearted, good Sonic the Hedgehog 2 goodness, we're going to go into something a bit more sinister, something a bit more terrifying, something quite a bit more scary. And of course, I'm talking about Hollywood remakes. They're remaking another one. Not really remaking, though. We're getting a sequel to a beloved classic. But the thing is, this beloved classic already has sequels. But apparently they're going the way of Halloween 2018 and retconning the shit out of them fuckers. And we're getting a part 2 to the Texas Chainsaw Massacre. A little more than a year ago, it was announced that Fede Alvarez was set to produce a new film in the Texas Chainsaw Massacre franchise. Was it going to be a reboot, a remake, or perhaps just another sequel? The film finished production last year, and in a new discussion with Bloody Disgusting, Alvarez answers some questions about the new Chainsaw and how it might pay homage to the original. Alvarez says it's a direct sequel, and it's the same character. It is Old Man Leatherface, revealed Alvarez. Everything is classic, old school gags, a lot of the approach we had with Evil Dead, the remake, I believe is what he's talking about. Never VFX. To do everything on camera. It's very old school approach to filmmaking. Vintage lenses, it's very similar to the original film. I really like everything he said there, by the way. The film is directed by David Blue Garcia, based on a script by Chris Thomas Devlin. The film stars Alyssa Fisher, Sarah Yarkin, Mark Burnham, Mo Dunford, Olwen Forer, Alice Craig, Jacob Lattimore, good first name, Neil Hudson, Jessica Allen, Sam Douglas, William Hope, and Jolene Coy. The idea of making a brand new direct sequels to classic films is nothing new. 2018's Halloween did a similar thing and broke records. Terminator Dark Fate did it in 2019 with not so great results. As of right now, there is not a release date for the film. I've gone on record in saying I am not the biggest fan of the Texas Chainsaw Massacre, the original. Really, the whole entire just series. It's just not my thing. Honestly, the movies, I appreciate what they've done for cinema. I appreciate what Toby Hooper did. I think they have their place, and anyone who loves them, I understand why you do. But me, myself, I just can't get into them. They are just, like, dirty. They're like, they make me feel dirty. And they've never been my thing. So when we're talking about a sequel to the Texas Chainsaw Massacre, I'm not a huge fan. However, the approach that they're talking about taking here, much like the Halloween 2018 approach, does interest me because for a few different reasons. First of all, everything he said here in the second paragraph, after it's a direct sequel, said everything is classic, old school gags. A lot of the approach that we had with Evil Dead, I don't know if he's talking about the remake or not, never visual effects. Do everything on camera. It's very old school approach to filmmaking, vintage lenses, and it's very similar to the original film. I like that. I think that's really cool that they're going to do everything in camera. That they're not going to be using a bunch of, he says VFX, I think he means CGI and stuff like that. They're not going to be adding stuff in after the fact. And that's great. That's awesome. I think that's a neat approach. I would say novel. It's novel nowadays, but it just was how they did business back in the day. But I like that kind of taking it back to its roots and trying to emulate or be as similar to the old film as possible by taking that approach. That could actually work. That interests me. And also the fact that I honestly I don't hate it, but I'm not a huge Halloween fan. I know. Stop. Just lay off. The original John Carpenter's Halloween. I love John Carpenter, too. He's made some of my most favorite films. The Thing, Big Trouble in Little China, Escape from L.A., or not L.A., Escape from New York. A lot of those movies. I love John Carpenter, but Halloween never did it for me. I didn't hate it. It didn't do it for me. But Halloween 2018, I really enjoyed. And that was kind of what this movie's trying to do, is go back and rewrite, not history, but just kind of wipe all that clear and go back to when it was good. So maybe I'll like this one. I'll definitely give it a shot because I like what they're saying. Even if I'm not a fan of the original Texas Chainsaw Massacre, it sounds like they are trying to be as faithful to that movie and its vision as possible. And I think that's really cool. So even if I don't end up liking it, which I may not, it sounds like fans of the original Texas Chainsaw Massacre may have something good to look forward to. And my understanding is I haven't seen a lot of the remakes and reboots, and there's been quite a few of them, and sequels to remakes and reboots of the Texas Chainsaw Massacre. But my understanding is people have not been big fans of those. I think they've all been produced by Michael Bay or something like that, but people have not really loved those. So maybe this is a return to form for you. You should be excited. But on the flip side of that as well, like they said, this has been done before. It's kind of becoming a bit of a trend. Halloween did it, had great results. Terminator Dark Fate did it, not so much. That one didn't go over as well. I didn't hate Terminator Dark Fate as much as some people, but I absolutely saw its flaws. I didn't think it was the greatest movie ever made. I didn't think it was the greatest Terminator movie ever made. And saying that it was the best Terminator movie since Terminator 2 really isn't saying much, because everything after Terminator 2 was severely lacking. Pretty much anything without James Cameron. But as far as this one goes, yeah, I'm looking forward to it. It's not like at the top of my list, but whenever it finally comes out, I'm interested in checking this one out, because it sounds like it's going to be, at least, if nothing else, I'll be interested to see filmmakers nowadays doing everything in camera and shooting a movie old school, like the old school way. I think that'll be interesting, and hopefully it turns out to be an interesting film. It sounds like it's probably going to be or an entertaining film. It sounds like it's going to maybe elaborate on some of those roots. It says it's going to be Old Man Leatherface, so I don't know how old Leatherface is supposed to be in the original movie, so I wouldn't think it would be based in nowadays, because I want to say that Texas Chainsaw Massacre is going on like 45, 50 years old at this point, so if that character was, say, 30, he'd be like 80 or something like that. Maybe that's the route they're going, but I wouldn't be surprised if this takes place in maybe like the 90s or maybe the early 2000s or something like that, and that would still classify him as Old Man Leatherface. 80-year-old Leatherface, I don't know if he's going to be doing as much wreaking as much carnage as he was. Who knows? Might be a spry 80-year-old man. I mean, my father is approaching 80, and he's a very spry gentleman. So crazier things have happened. So if you're a fan of the Texas Chainsaw Massacre, get ready because there is a new sequel coming your way, and it sounds like it may possibly be one that does the original justice. Now, moving on from that, we're going to Japan. We're going to talk about Japan for just a minute, and a movie that they're, I guess not finally, but they're bringing over here to the States, and we'll just jump right into it. We're talking about Japan's #1 movie ever at the box office in Japan, not in the world, but the #1 highest grossing film of all time, which is in theaters there right now, beating out everything else by a country mile, if you will. And that is a movie called Demon Slayer. Actually, it has a longer name. We'll get to that in a minute. But they are bringing it here to the U.S. to see if they can slay our box office. Right now, they probably could. But it's like, I don't know. And whenever they bring this thing over, which is not too long from now, we'll see. The battle of the highest grossing movie in Japan was once fought between critically acclaimed titans of anime. Hayao Miyazaki's Oscar-winning Spirited Away kept the title for years before being temporarily toppled by Makoto Shinki's sensational Your Name. By the way, Spirited Away is a fantastic film. I can't tell you how great that movie is if you haven't seen it. For adults, children, everyone alike. It's a wonderful film. You should check that out. Won an Academy Award. I can't remember for what. A Best Animated Film, but other things too, I think. Back in 2003, I think is when it came out. I can't remember, but is a fantastic film. Check it out. Moving on, though. But in 2020, another anime film obliterated Japanese box office records, becoming the highest grossing movie in the country and becoming the 4th highest grossing film of 2020. Demon Slayer. I'm going to try and pronounce this. Demon Slayer. Kimetsu no Yaiba, the movie, Mugen Train. That's the name. And now it's coming to U.S. theaters. Aniplex of America and Funimation announced that they are teaming up for the North American release of Demon Slayer Mugen Train. I like how they shortened it too. Which is officially set to open in U.S. theaters on April 23rd. So exactly 1 month. No. Yeah, 1 month from today. Directed by Hiro Sotosaki, Demon Slayer Mugen Train is a sequel to the ongoing anime series which adopts the popular manga series by Koyohiro Gotuji. Sorry about these names. I am slaughtering them. I'm trying my best. Which follows a young boy named Tanner, I think, who joins an elite group of demon slayers in order to find a cure for his sister after she is turned into a demon. The film acts as a bridge between the first and upcoming second season of Demon Slayer. It broke the $100 million milestone in Japan in just 10 days, grossing nearly $400 million in the country alone, beating out Hayao Miyazaki's Spirited Away and Titanic for the all-time record. Demon Slayer Mugen Train will be shown in both 4DX and IMAX, and both subtitled and English dubbed versions. Season 1 of Demon Slayer is available to stream on Netflix now. Anime's never... I know anime is huge. It's huge over there, obviously, and it's huge here, too. It's never been my thing. There have been a few animes I've seen that I enjoyed. Now, like the Miyazaki anime, I guess they're animes technically, too, but the Miyazaki films, like the Studio Ghibli and stuff like that, I really do enjoy those. I don't... Technically, they are anime, I suppose, but that's not what I really view as anime. But those films I've really enjoyed. There are some other animes like Ghost in the Shell I remember enjoying. I don't remember anything about it. Akira was really out there. For me, it was visually stunning, I thought, especially for an animation. It had some really cool things they did, but the story seemed like it was a cool story, but it was just kind of all over the place to me. I know that's sacrilege to some. There's one called Armitage Third. I really enjoyed that one now. That's an older one as well. Or Polymatrix, Armitage Third Polymatrix, I think, is a really neat story about some people on Mars and robots and if they have souls or not and having kids. It's crazy shit. But yeah, I'm not a huge anime fan though, and I'm not familiar with this series. I've heard it mentioned just because I heard it was doing gangbusters over in Japan, and that is a lot of fucking money. Over here, $100 million in 10 days is not insane. But I mean that's good, but it's not insane. $400 million is really good, but it's not like, oh, it's the highest grossing film of all time. But you got to think about Japan. Japan is not a large country. Look at it on a map. There's not, per capita, there are nowhere near as many people there. So this is only in Japan. Like literally only in that little island it's made $400 million. That's a lot. That's huge. Now, how much appeal this series has outside of Japan, I have no idea. I don't know anything about it. For all I know, it'll come over here and it'll do gangbusters here too. Do I think this is going to dethrone Avatar or Avengers? Or do I think this is even going to break into the top 10? I don't know. It's already, I mean, by the time it comes over here, it's probably going to be sitting at $500 million, $500 million. If it came over here and did another 500 plus, it could, maybe. I don't know. I'd have to look at the numbers on the top 10. Like the bottom one, I think it's Frozen. I don't know how much it made. It was like $1 billion something. So I mean, the movie has potential. If it comes over here and does at least the same amount, it could, it could be big. I don't think that right now anything is going to make $400 or $500 million in theaters. And I think that in 1 month as well. I don't think the American public are ready to go out in those types of droves as yet. But it's already been a success over there, so no matter what it does over here is just adding to that amount of money, so I wish them the best. I don't know anything about this. Like I said, if you're a fan of anime, and more specifically, if you're a fan of this anime, then, you got something to look forward to. It is available, the show. Apparently it's a show. Season 1, they said, is available on Netflix here in the States right now. Maybe check that out, and maybe it'll hook you, and this will be, this will change your mind, and you'll say, yeah, I got to go see this movie now. Who knows? We will find out on, I think it was April 23rd. And I probably will not be going to see this movie, honestly. But if anyone does, feel free to let me know if it was any good. So moving on from that, we got another movie is sliding out of, just shifting a bit. And I mean, a few months, and we're kind of getting used to this at this point. There's a couple of them that are, it's kind of in the wake of another movie, and I'm kind of looking forward to this movie. It could be really cool, or it could be like the first one, which was fine. And this is just a quick little something we're going to talk about here, this quick story, and I'm talking about Venom 2, Let There Be Carnage, technically is what it's called. Says Sony has delayed the Venom 2 release date by 3 months to vacate the June 25th slot recently taken up by Fast 9. Venom Let There Be Carnage will now release on September 17th, 2021. It will screen in 3D, IMAX, and premium large formats. As part of this reshuffle, Sony is also undating the Kevin Hart, Jason Statham movie Man from Toronto, which was originally set for September 17th. There's no new release date set for the action comedy yet. Venom, Let There Be Carnage will be directed by Andy Serkis from a screenplay by Kelly Marcel and stars Tom Hardy as Eddie Brock / Venom alongside Woody Harrelson, Michelle Williams, Reed Scott, and Naomi Watts. I'm sorry, Naomi Harris, not Naomi Watts, Naomi Harris. I think this could be really cool, and what actually gets me excited about it, because the first Venom movie was actually one of the first reviews I did on my channel. Not the first, one of them. Check it out and see how bad it used to be. But my thoughts on the original Venom movie were that it was It was okay. It had its issues. I liked things about it. I liked Tom Hardy. I liked, for the most part, the design of Venom, and I liked how they talk to each other. I liked some of that stuff. But some of the stuff, like the story elements, just were kind of fell flat for me. They're just kind of eh. And also some of the like the effects, they looked good, but they were just like too damn much. It was just they're taking it too far. And like the ending fight scene was just a VFX puked on the screen. You really couldn't tell. I mean, you knew that these two guys were fighting, but you couldn't really see what was going on. So kind of lost me there. But I didn't hate it. I liked how in the end they showed Woody Harrelson. Harrelson. Yeah, sorry. Woody Harrelson show up as potentially Carnage, and what they could do with that. Woody Harrelson's a fun actor. So I'm looking forward to seeing this. But what really gets me psyched about it is Andy Serkis. Andy Serkis is directing it. I did not know that until I read this story earlier this week. Andy Serkis is taking over directing duties, and Andy Serkis is a talented director. We all know him as a talented mocap performer with like Gollum and Caesar from the Planet of the Apes and the Kong from the King Kong movie from 2005, and working with Peter Jackson and stuff like that. But he has taken up the directing reins. Working with Peter Jackson, he actually took up directing Second Unit, and then he moved on to direct the Mowgli, the other Jungle Book movie. I actually really liked that movie. I thought it was a bit darker than the Jon Favreau Jungle Book that we got right around the same time. Nothing against that movie, but Mowgli was a little bit of a different take on it, and I enjoyed that, and I thought he did a really good job with it. So I'm looking forward to see his take on this. He seems like the type who will really just inject some energy and fun into this movie. And Woody Harrelson playing crazy Woody Harrelson is kind of like Nicolas Cage playing crazy. So playing this insane character is this other Venom, just kind of more or less a red Venom that's let loose and has no good and goes all bad. That could be a really good time. I've heard that the movie might be rated R. That could be awesome. I understand why they moved this movie. Going up against Fast and the Furious 9, no. That's a terrible idea. I mean, I'm sure there's hype behind Venom 2, but it's Fast and the Furious. Nobody wants to go up against Fast and the Furious. It's like in the video game world when a new GTA is coming out. Nobody's going up against that. It's just, you don't do that. It's suicide. And especially right now when I think people are much more selective to what movies they're going to go out, when they leave the house, where they go and how they spend their time. And they still will be probably around there. That we're talking about June at this point, so things might be a little bit. I think things will be in a little bit better place by that point. But I don't blame them for moving the release date of this movie up just a bit. It does make sense to me because move it out even further to September, because Fast 9 is probably going to make money even if people are kind of hesitant to go out June 25th. Fast 9, people will go out for Fast and Furious movie. People won't necessarily go out for Venom 2. They might, but not as many. In September, though, I think you got a better bet people going out and this movie being more successful. So I agree with this. I think this is fine. I have no problem with them doing this. I'd like to see the movie. It's clearly already done. I mean, I assume. So it's not talking about production or anything. I'm sure the movie's just sitting somewhere on a shelf. But I'm okay with this. It doesn't bother me. I'm not like, this isn't my most anticipated movie ever. But hopefully it comes out September 17th, and it's just awesome. It's the Venom movie that we've always wanted. I'm looking forward to it, and we'll find out on the 17th. Now, while Venom moves to a new date, we have another movie that is just now wrapping up. One that has just kind of seemed like a shit show from day one, if you believed all the news, but it seems like maybe some of that was a little bit over the top. Maybe we haven't been hearing all the true stories, because if you listen to all the stories and all the gossip surrounding this movie, you'd think it's probably never going to get fucking made, but apparently out of nowhere, The Batman has wrapped filming. The Caped Crusader, The Caped Crusaders' COVID-troubled production has finally wrapped. The Batman director Matt Reeves announced the end of production following more than a full year of filming in the UK amid COVID-19 shutdowns and delays. And by the way, filming a movie for a fucking year is insane. Most movies film for most larger movies, 3 to 4, maybe 5 months. A year is insane. Now, they haven't been filming the whole time. They've been on again, off again because of the pandemic. The filmmaker marked the end of filming with an Instagram photo of his last day on set. Last day, the filmmaker wrote in the caption for his picture, which showed the Batman clapperboard wrapped up in plastic alongside a few other knickknacks. Jeffrey Wright, who stars as James Gordon, also celebrated the end of the filming with a tweet, which may or may not hint that a sequel is already on the horizon. Gordon out for now, Wright wrote. 1 year exactly after the shutdown. Some ride. Oh, okay, some ride. He's saying like, oh, that was some hell of a ride. Of course, Wright may also be referring to an appearance by his James Gordon in the Batman spinoff series Gotham PD, which is already in the works at HBO Max. I heard something about that. Is that pretty much just like the show Gotham, but now they're calling it Gotham PD? Because Gotham was pretty much about James Gordon and like the police of Gotham, less Batman. I don't know. The DC superhero movies take place in year 2 of Batman's crusade against crime. Robert Pattinson stars as the Caped Crusader himself, Bruce Wayne / Batman, leading a cast that also includes Zoe Kravitz as Catwoman, Paul Dano as the Riddler, Jeffrey Wright as Commissioner Gordon, John Turturro as Carmine Falcone, Peter Skarsgård as Gil Coulson, Gotham's District Attorney, Jamie Lawson as Bella-Real, a mayoral candidate in Gotham, Andy Serkis as Alfred, that's interesting, and Colin Farrell as the Penguin. The Batman is currently scheduled to open in theaters on March 4th, 2022, so just under a year from now. If you listen, I haven't really reported on any of it here because a lot of it happened before I started this show. But if you listen to all the shit surrounding this film, I'm surprised it even got finished. However, there's been a lot of people saying that all of that has been inflated, and a lot of it's just outright not true. I mean, there's been people talking about how Robert Pattinson, he was just it's all revolves around him, about how he's a nightmare to work with, and nobody likes him. He doesn't want to be there on the movie. Him and Reeves were constantly arguing. He refused to work out. And like him and Zoe Kravitz were having sex on the Batmobile, and she got pregnant with his baby, like crazy shit. We're talking some like Inquirer level crazy like rumors going on with this movie. It's been insane, like shouting matches with the studio execs over Zoom and just all kinds of crazy shit. But some of the stuff is just not quite lined up, and especially when it comes to Pattinson. Because while Reeves has been known to be kind of a meticulous director and wants to get the shot he wants to get, he's never been known as like a difficult to work with director. He's just been known as a director who knows what he wants and he's going to get it. And he's made some really good movies as a result of that. But Pattinson, from what everyone else has ever said, at least publicly, is just a joy to work with. And he's like one of the most professional actors anyone's ever worked with, and he gives every role his all. And I got to look at the guy's filmography, barring Twilight. Well, hell, even Twilight. I mean, even in Twilight. Okay, Twilight was not the greatest series. That's what got us start. But especially after Twilight, everything he's been in, he is exemplary in. He is a fantastic actor. And he has been in some amazingly wonderful movies that you could tell he really poured himself into. He does not strike me as the type who's just going to dick around on set. He strikes me as the type who's going to come in, give it 100% and make this thing happen. I think this movie was just a big budget, like high concept movie that was being made during a pandemic. And in the middle of it all, that's when this pandemic struck, and they've just had a hard time making it happen, you know? I mean, it's an American film being made in another country during a pandemic and all this other crazy shit going on, and that's what's causing all the issues with it. And they finally got the thing done after a year. Because think about it. There's been other movies that have been being made during this thing. But what other, like, legit big budget tentpole movies were being made pretty much throughout the entirety of this pandemic? I mean, there might be some other ones, but this is it. I mean, this is a comic book superhero movie, more or less, being made during this thing. I think that's where it all came from. And people just wanted something to be happening, and it wasn't. And they weren't happy with just, it's all COVID related. But I'm happy to see that the movie finally wrapped. I'm interested to see what Pattinson's going to do. I've been a big fan of his since quite a while back. I thought he had a couple of, like, I'm not going to say questionable, just not my thing roles that he did shortly after Twilight that kind of fell into that kind of sort of same category. But he quickly got away from those and started doing some more indie fare and just some more projects you could tell probably meant more to him. The guy's probably got enough money to live off the rest of his life and not really have to worry about it. So I get the feeling that he just decided, I don't need money anymore. I'm going to go make the movies I want to make. And that's when he really started to shine. Things like Good Times, High Life. This is a fantastic movie. I'm blanking right now, but the guy's been in some great, The Rover with Guy Pearce. He was great in that. He's been in some really great, they are smaller movies, but nonetheless really great movies. And I was really looking forward to seeing him as Batman. And that little pseudo trailer we got about 6 months ago that really just showed some shots that they had of the film. None of it was even completed. I mean, it intrigued me. I like the look of it. It looked more of like a gritty kind of take on Batman, which we've gotten that before. Batman's always kind of been the dark character, but I liked the direction it looked like they were going, and that part at the end of the trailer where he beat the ever-living fucking shit out of that guy. I love that. I love that the guy's talking shit, and he just fucking knocked the fuck out of him and started beating the ever-living shit out of him. Because Batman, while, yes, he has killed, he traditionally doesn't kill. He will beat the fuck out of a motherfucker, and I like that. I thought that was awesome. It's like all that rage inside of him just comes out through his fist. That was really fucking cool. So I'm looking forward to this. Matt Reeves has made some great flicks as well. This whole cast is really interesting to me. I like Paul Dano. He was in one of my all-time favorite movies, There Will Be Blood. Looking forward to him there. I see him as the Riddler. That really, I see that. Andy Serkis, once again, the second time we talked about him tonight, as Alfred. I could see that as well. And I'm just everybody here. Zoe Kravitz, she's done some good stuff as Catwoman. I could see that. All these really fit. Colin Farrell as the Penguin doesn't fit, but I've seen the makeup that they put him in, so I guess it kind of does. Now, as I've mentioned on here before, I don't like the Penguin. Beyond that, I don't just dislike the Penguin. I really hate the Penguin, the character of the Penguin. So that was a little disheartening to hear that the Penguin was going to be in this movie, but who knows? Maybe he's not like a main bad guy. I don't know. We'll see. And, I mean, I like the Penguin portrayal in Gotham, so maybe he won't be as disgusting as penguins in the past. I just really fucking hate that character. But anyway, the Batman has finally wrapped. So they have approximately a year to work on post-production for that movie. So it should, they got plenty of time. They don't have to go shoot anything unless they do some pickups or anything. They got plenty of time to make it look good. Who knows? Maybe if they get it done early, because it usually doesn't take a fucking year. Unless you're talking about an animated movie, it usually doesn't take a year to do post-production on a movie. Maybe they'll finish it early and decide, hey, why don't we release it a little early? As much as they're shifting movies around this year, you never know. I mean, it could happen. Nothing is too far out there nowadays. Nothing. I mean, I don't put anything beyond what studios are going to do as far as like moving movies around at this point. Now, going from one superhero or comic book character movie to another, our last story of the evening. This is kind of a funny story to me. It's not funny. It is fucking funny, actually, because they finally gave in. And Disney had to concede. And I'm not a huge fan of Disney. You kind of got to be a fan of Disney to a degree nowadays because they own so many of the big properties that if you want to see stuff, you kind of got to buy into them at least a little bit. But anytime, I feel like Disney gets a little bit too big for their britches, as they used to say. So anytime they got to eat a little crow and like kind of concede to something, I'm kind of like, yeah, there you go. Fucking take it. So I'm happy to see. I'm not happy that the movie has been delayed again, but I am happy to see that they're at least. I wasn't surprised by this delay, but I am happy to see that they at least finally are speaking some sense. And we're talking about, of course, Black Widow. Again, we may actually finally see this fucking movie, because it has been, I think it was supposed to come out this time last year, or it's been delayed at least a year at this point. It may be more. It's been delayed so many times, but this movie's just been sitting on a shelf somewhere in a can, ready to go, and they just won't release it. And they've been talking about, I've reported on it here, how they have said Black Widow is not a VOD movie. It's a theater experience. It has to be experienced in theaters and yada, 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 yada. You know, I love the theater experience. I really do. But get the fuck off your high horse, man. It's Black Widow. It's a Marvel movie. Yes, they want them to be big, just things. I get that. And they are. They're big movies, and a lot of them are entertaining, and that's great. But I really don't like when you try and put yourself above everybody else, because we're Marvel. We only go to the theater, not fucking home video is below us. Well, apparently it's not below them anymore. Black Widow is moving to a July 9th. It was supposed to come out in May 7th, I believe it was. This is in May, and they were sticking hard to that until now. Again, Black Widow is moving to a July 9th release date, according to THR. But there's a bit of a caveat. A Disney Plus caveat. As many expected, the first Marvel Studios feature film since 2019 will find itself released on Disney Plus as a premiere access title, similarly to how the studio released Mulan and Raya and the Last Dragon. We'll talk more about this in a minute, but I think this is a great idea, and I think I mentioned this back when Mulan came out, or was coming out, or I've mentioned it about Mulan, but moving on. But that doesn't mean theaters are left out in the cold. Much like those previous two films, Disney is going to release Black Widow on Disney Plus and in select theaters on the same date. Black Widow was supposed to be the start of Phase 4 of the Marvel Cinematic Universe. That distinction ended up going to WandaVision earlier this year, and offer a send-off for one of the founding Avengers stars, Scarlett Johansson. The film is a prequel that finally gives some much-needed backstory to Natasha Romanoff and seemingly sets up her successor, Yelena Belova, Florence Pugh. And now that Black Widow is seemingly in its final resting place on the release schedule, Marvel Studios can start the film side of Phase 4, which is also supposed to include Shang-Chi and the Legend of the Ten Rings, Eternals, Doctor Strange and the Multiverse of Madness, and several more over the next few years. As of right now, after this shift, these other films have shifted as well, and they're all gonna be in real quick succession, these movies. This is probably like if they stick to these dates, this is the most Marvel movies you're gonna get in a small amount of time. I don't see them sticking to all these dates, because listen to these dates. Shang-Chi, because they were supposed to be spaced out over the summer and next year or something. I don't know. They weren't this close together. Shang-Chi is slated for September 3rd, Eternals November 5th, and Spider-Man No Way Home December 17th. As of now, there's not a date for Doctor Strange in the Multiverse of Madness as of yet. That is just like bam, 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 like non-stop Marvel movies right there, because this one is September, where'd it go? July 9th. Oh, I'm sorry. It's July 9th. Black Widow is July 9th. And then a couple of months later, we get all these movies. Why are they cramming them all together right there? That's just a weird, they don't have any room to breathe. It's kind of like Marvel overload. I don't know. Maybe people are looking forward to that. Who knows? But yeah, going back to the beginning of this story where they said this is not the first time they've done this. It's what they similarly did with Mulan and Raya the Last Dragon. Mulan was not a success when it came to premiere access, and that's because they were asking people to watch this movie. To see this movie, you had to, first of all, you were paying for Disney. You had to pay for Disney Plus, but then you also had to pay an additional $30 fucking to see Mulan. And the same thing with Raya and the Last Dragon. Those movies are not, people are going to pay for them, yeah, but those movies are not going to get a lot of people paying that $30 extra price tag for those two movies. $20, maybe. I could see $20, but $30, they're not going to do that. But I said this way back when we were talking about Mulan. I said it in my Mulan review. Black Widow is the movie you need to do this with. Black Widow is what you need to release at that point. Well, I think even at that point you could have done select theaters, but on Disney Plus as premiere access, because people would pay that $30 extra to see Black Widow. Would everybody? No, but a lot more people will pay to see the new Marvel movie over Mulan or Raya and the Last fucking Dragon. And I think we're going to find that out on July 9th. And what's going to happen is dependent upon how the theater situation is leading up to these other movies. If they stick to those release dates or anywhere near them, I think we might see a similar situation with them as well, at least some of them. Because I think people would pay that premium, because it's not just a premium, it's a premium price for these for a Marvel film. Me, myself, personally, I feel like I'm kind of conflicted on Phase 4 of Marvel. I don't know how I feel about it. I don't feel as if there's a clear vision of it as of yet. And maybe that has to do with the pandemic and it just hasn't been communicated to us. I don't know. Everything after Endgame, I'm kind of, we'll see. And they have not made me feel any better about that since. There's been some good stuff. WandaVision, haven't seen it yet, but I've heard good things. I haven't heard bad things. I've heard WandaVision was either some people say, oh, it was really cool. And I've heard other people say, it's all right. I've heard more, it's all right, and then it was great, but I haven't heard anybody say it was total dog shit. So there's that. Falcon and the Winter Soldier we'll talk about here in a minute, but there really hasn't been anything else. It was a Spider-Man movie. It was fine. So I don't know where the Marvel Cinematic Universe is going, and some of the comments they've made about where they want to go just overall as far as like from a business with Marvel now, or the MCU, do kind of raise some concerns for me, but we'll see. Once again, I don't know if they're ever going to get to the heights of Endgame or the old like Phase 2 and 3 or 1, 2, and 3 again, but we'll see. But either way, regardless of what I think, I do know that people would pay, because Marvel is still a very big thing, people would pay $30 to see these movies on Disney Plus a Disney Plus subscription. Not Raya and the Last Dragon. Not Mulan. It's just not going to happen. That was dumb. Why wait all that time for... They're hoping to do gangbusters in theaters. It is not going to happen in 2021. If it does, it's at the end of the fucking year, at best. It's not going to happen this summer. This summer is not going to be... You're not going to have any billion-dollar movies, okay? I know they're like, we're Marvel, we make $1 billion a movie. Not this year. You just don't. And I think they're finally conceding and facing that to a degree, saying, okay, we'll put it on Disney and try and get that premium to get a boost in it. But just put the fucking movie out, man. Because clearly, since they shifted everything else, because I think the Shang-Chi movie was supposed to come out in June or July. It was supposed to come out around the time Black Widow is, but since they've pushed it out, clearly something in this Black Widow movie has to come before those movies. Those other movies can't happen until this one narratively, I'm thinking, because why would they shift all those out? Why not just go ahead and let them happen and Black Widow just come the fuck out whenever? But no, they want to keep Black Widow first, and there's a reason behind that, and I assume it's a narrative reason. But we'll find out on July 9th, I believe is what it said. When we're finally gonna see this fucking movie. This movie has been... it's been delayed so many times and so long. Last year on April 1st, I did an April 1st joke video on my channel about having a review for Black Widow, and it was already supposed to be out at that point. So, I mean, we're coming up on another April 1st, and it's still not here. And it was, I want to say it was even before that it was supposed to come out. I think it was originally like November of 2020 or something like that. I mean, or not 2020, November of 2019. I think it was supposed to come out in 2019. I could be wrong, but I want to say this movie has been delayed a lot. But either way, we are finally getting, it sounds like July 9th is going to be the day we're finally going to get to see Black Widow. Me, myself, I really, really like the score in the trailer. I remember that. And the trailer looks fine. I mean, it'll probably be an entertaining film, I'm sure. Will it be the be-all, end-all? I don't know. You never know. But it just looks like it's going to be, hey, that was a pretty entertaining movie. And, that's good enough. That's all I'm asking for out of a movie. So if it entertains me, I'll have a good time with it. We'll check it out July 9th. So that'll about do it for the news this week. Hope you guys enjoyed that. It was a few more stories than usual, but just a lot of stuff happened this past week. Nothing huge, I guess, but just lots of things I wanted to talk about. And there were a lot more things I just had to take out. But this is what I took it down to. A little bit longer show than usual, I know. But, hey, these were things I wanted to talk about. I didn't want to wait till next week to talk about. And so there you go. Now, one more thing this week I did want to talk about. I'm trying something a little bit different here on the podcast and on the channel. I am going to, instead of taking a look at trailers and doing some reactions to those, I'm going to talk about a TV show. TV shows have not been a staple of my channel since it started. I've been primarily movies, but I have had requests to take a look at various TV shows, and I haven't yet gotten there. So I decided, well, we got The Falcon and the Winter Soldier starting up this week. It's a big one. Give it a shot. I'll try it out and see what happens. So I decided to give that one a watch. I watched it last night. It just came out the other day, and I figured every week here on the JARcast, I will give a review of the most recent episode and just take it from there and see what happens. And who knows, maybe more TV show reviews will be coming in the future of the Jacob Anders Reviews YouTube channel. So, The Falcon and the Winter Soldier, Episode 1. Well, first of all, we're going to have no spoilers in the first part. And then later on, I will do spoilers. And nothing really spoilery here, but I'll talk about more stuff in detail. But this first half will be no spoilers. And I will let you know when spoilers are incoming so you can skip it if you haven't seen the show yet. But from a non-spoiler side of things, as I mentioned before, if you follow the channel, I was a big fan of the MCU, and I'm still a fan, but ever since Endgame kind of capped all that off, it seems like it's been a bit disjointed since then. I don't know what their purpose, what their direction is. They haven't really let us know that, like, in good detail. There's lots of stuff out there. There's lots of, it could be this, it could be that, they could be doing that, but no one really knows. We don't know what direction they're going. And honestly, after watching this show, I still don't know. But I did enjoy where this show went. Overall, I enjoyed the show. It wasn't quite what I expected. I'll give it that. It had a little bit of what I expected, but it wasn't full on what I expected. It gave me a little bit, a little more than I was expecting, honestly, or at least something a little different. This show is not as nearly as action heavy as I was expecting. It's got some action moments in it, especially the beginning. It starts off with a bang, and it's within the first few minutes, there's a hell of an action scene that's, you're watching it, and I was just like, that does not say TV to me. If you told me I was watching a movie called The Falcon and the Winter Soldier, I would believe it, because this show does not have the traditional hallmarks of a show, besides, of course, being long form. This is very high quality. This is MCU. This is Marvel movie level production here. There's a that big action scene in the beginning, there is a lot of stuff going on, lots of effects, and it all looks fantastic, and it is really exciting. It's in that typical Marvel kind of tongue-in-cheek kind of good time, but it's a bit more violent than some of the Marvel movies have been. I mean, it's not, just gore and blood and guts all over the place, but there's a few shots in it that are kind of like, oh, well, okay, that was a bit more violent than I'm used to in the MCU. Nothing too bad, nothing you got to put the kids to bed for or anything like that, but it was just the tone of it all. There was a bit more murder than I was used to. So I did kind of like that. That was unexpected. And it was an exciting scene. Now, after that, we go into really the vast majority of what this episode is all about, and that's getting to know our characters, or getting to know our characters again. Bucky Barnes and Sam, the Falcon. Can't remember his last name in the show, but we get to know these two characters again. We see where they're at. Both of them, of course, were part of, as they've named it in this, the Blip. I like the Snap better, but whatever. They both were gone for that 5-year period and then reappeared, and we get to see what it's like for them, especially the Falcon, to be here one day, gone, and then reappear in a world where there are other people that they went on. These people went on for 5 years of their life and you weren't there. We get to see that a lot more here. I thought that aspect was really interesting. We get to see stuff with his family, his extended family, and how their lives went on and he wasn't there, and now he's trying to be a part of that. And, there is still a little bit, you almost get a bit of, like they're somewhat, not mad, but they've had a hard time. That was a hard 5 years. This only takes place, I think they said, just a couple of months after Endgame, or after the snap is reversed. This takes place shortly after that. So everything that happened in the end of Endgame is still fairly fresh here. We get the Falcon decides to, as we know in the end of Endgame, he receives Captain America's shield. He puts it in a museum. He says, this was his shield. This was his thing. While we do need heroes, this belonged to him. There is only one Captain America, and I'm not him. So he puts it up to be in this big Captain America kind of museum they got going on. And that was pretty cool, because it's like, okay, so that kind of answered a question for us early on that everybody's wondering which one of them is going to get the shield. Now, I mean, that's clearly going to come up again in this show, as we'll get to later on. But I like that aspect of it. Then we transition over to Bucky, and we see how not only is he dealing with the fact that he's been gone for 5 years, but he's also, even more so than that doesn't seem to bother him that much, because think about it, he didn't really have that many connections prior to the snap or the blip, whatever. He was kind of a man out of time already. He's dealing more with the fact that he's 106 years old or whatever, really. He was put on ice, brought out, an assassin. He'd kill a bunch of people. He remembers this stuff. He has dreams about it. He's got PTSD, essentially. And he's been let out, even though, he did do those things. I guess the government acknowledges, hey, it wasn't your fault. But he has to, go and see a shrink, and he has to go talk to her about, his dreams and how he's doing and stuff like that. As long as he does that, he's allowed to be free. But he's really just a secluded guy. He doesn't really, he talks to, one guy, this old man, and that's it. And we get to see how he's really tormented by the things he did when he was the Winter Soldier. Even though it wasn't really him, it was mind control. He still dreams about these things. He has nightmares about them. It keeps him awake. And he also is really dealing with the fact that all those years, really the vast majority of his years on this earth, he was a puppet, and he was frozen, brought back, lots of murder and all this, all those things. He did a really good job of showing how he's conflicted about these things. One of the things that really surprised me about the show was this. I don't really consider this much of a spoiler, but these two characters, the whole Falcon and Winter Soldier thing that we've seen in the trailer and everything, that doesn't happen yet. This is about them. This is purely about these guys. This episode is wholly about getting to know these two characters So later on, I'm assuming we'll be able to get more into the Marvel-y stuff and, understand these characters more. We do get an introduction to what I assume will either be the villain of the show or at least one of the villains. It's a fairly quick introduction. I'm not familiar with this character who it is. I thought the character was going to be somebody else, or I thought the main villain was going to be somebody else based on the trailer. I don't think this is who that character was, but I guess it could have. You never know, but I don't think that's who it was, not given where we last saw that character in the MCU. I don't know. We'll find out. We don't get a lot on this villain. It's just kind of an introduction. We get a little small taste of what this character is capable of, and then things go on. But yeah, man, that was ultimately what the show was. It's fairly simple. It's just getting to know these two characters. That, and we get a pretty cool, admittedly really cool extended action scene in the beginning with the Falcon. But beyond that, it's just these two guys trying to make it through life. Both of which being men out of time. That's the theme. These two guys are trying to make it in a world that they've been out of touch with for a while. Bucky seeing as how he was the Winter Soldier and frozen over all those years, and Sam because he was in part of the blip. He just disappeared, and everyone he knew and loved kept on moving on, and he came back suddenly, and 5 years just lost. So I really liked how it showed that, and it did take that time. I will give them that. They had the balls for their first episode to have it be a character piece in a Marvel property. I wasn't expecting that. I really wasn't. I was expecting a lot more action and spectacle. And while we did get a bit of that, we got a taste of that, and I think that was really smart. I think that it showed me that this show is going to, at least so far, it seems like it will be concerned with character. And that's what really sells shows, and movies too, but especially long-form TV shows. It's all about the characters. And it really put the time in to show these characters and let us get to know them or get to know them again and build a connection to them and know more about where they're at right now and what they're going through. But it also showed in that beginning, hey, this is still Marvel, and here's our production, and we're not taking the easy route. It's not gonna be all that, because let's give you a taste of what's to come. And that action scene in the beginning was really cool. And if you saw that, it would fit inside of one of their big budget Hollywood, summer theatrical movies with any other scene. It was really good. It's really exciting. Overall, I did enjoy The Falcon and the Winter Soldier. I thought it was a good time. I don't know what I was exactly expecting out of it, but it actually gave me a little bit more. Like I said, it gave me a lot more character, and that's what stories are. That's what sells a show. And I thought they did a really good job of that, showing us what these characters are about. It had some of those MCU quips in it, but it wasn't quite as quippy as some of the other MCU things have been. And I appreciated that, because that can start to wear on you at a time. It was a bit more lighthearted than, say, something like, I don't know, the DCEU. I mean, I watched this probably the day after I watched, or a day or two after I watched Zack Snyder's Justice League. It ain't that. It's not like that dark. It's not really particularly dark, but it's not quite as kind of tongue-in-cheek quippy as some of the other MCU has been up to this point. And I did appreciate that. It was a nice, refreshing look. And I am excited, or at least looking forward to episode 2 and see where they go from here. We've gotten to know these characters again. We see where they're at. I'm ready for the next stage. I want them to progress. If each episode here on out, they progress and move forward, then I'll be happy with the show. And I am interested in seeing where they take this, where they go. They haven't really set up that arc of the show yet. We don't really know. You don't get a lot in this first episode. Like I said, you just get these characters, get to know them, and I'm assuming next episode maybe we'll get the beginnings of that arc of what the show is going to be really all about. But I'm looking forward to it. I recommend checking it out. It's only about 45 minutes long. Really, if you take the credits out, it's only about 40 minutes long. There's some long as hell credits in this thing. But if you're a fan of Marvel, I think you're going to enjoy this. However, I think you may be taken back a bit by how, after that first action scene, there's not really much action in it. It is very character driven, but that's not a bad thing. Just know this is a TV show, and I'm sure we're going to get more action, but action doesn't sell a show. The characters do, and I think they did a really good job with the characters here, and I do recommend checking out The Falcon and the Winter Soldier. Now, let's talk spoilers for just a minute. So if you don't want any spoilers for this show, there's not a whole lot to spoil here, by the way. The last shot kind of, but there's nothing that's like world ending, like some of the stuff from WandaVision. So if you're really opposed to spoilers, I'm only going to go on for about a couple of minutes here. So mute it or something like that, or come back to this after you've seen it. But when it comes to spoilers for this thing, there's really only a couple, and that would be that I almost mentioned it, but I decided not to in the spoiler review, or in the spoiler-free part of this review. Bucky and Sam never come together in this. The Falcon and the Winter Soldier never meet in this show or in this episode. We do not see them coming together as of yet. This is literally just about these two guys. Not once do they meet. They're not even spoken about in the same scene except for one single time when Bucky's therapist says you haven't been accepting any calls from anyone. Sam's tried to call you a bunch of times. You haven't accepted his. That's it. There's no other cross between these characters whatsoever. It's all about them singularly until they're going, of course, inevitably, they are going to come together. I liked that. I thought that was very unexpected to me. I kept waiting, okay, when's the part when they're going to get together? I was enjoying what I saw, but I was just like, okay, it's running out of time. Are they just going to come together in the last scene? No, they're not. It's, I assume, next episode they're going to come together. So I did. I thought that was unexpected. I thought they were going to jump into that whole Falcon Winter Soldier thing and kind of the two like doing a buddy comedy kind of buddy cop thing. That's what it seemed like the show was going to be a bit like, or the trailer was going to be. It made it seem like it was going to be. So it was kind of neat that they didn't jump right into that. Also, the whole shield thing in the beginning, apparently Sam gets screwed over by, I guess, the government because he puts it up there. He says, I'm not going to, Captain America clearly wanted one of them, and it had kind of been passed on to Sam, the Falcon, to be the new Captain America, or to take up the mantle of the shield. He passes it off and he says, it's not for me, it's not for anybody. We're going to put it in this museum. And, everybody's like, oh, that was a great thing that you did. And even the people over the museum and the higher-ups in the government, they were like, yes, that was the right thing. You did the right thing. Well, of course, right there at the end of the show, we see on the television, he sees that they're having an event, and those same people are introducing what turns out to be the new Captain America. And this guy just shows up, and he walks out. And he has the goofiest looking face. He's wearing Captain America's, or at least a suit that's similar to Captain America's, and he's got the shield and everything. The helmet, or the face part, that I don't think Captain America's really worn since, the Winter Soldier? The beginning of the Winter Soldier, I guess? But that helmet or mask thing he's wearing, it looks like it's like slightly too big for him, and I think that was purposely because he looks kind of goofy. But he really reminded me when this guy shows up on screen. And of course, everybody's like, oh my, they took it. And that was like really shitty of them. But I mean, were we really surprised? I mean, that seems like the kind of thing that they would do, anyway. But, that's the big reveal in the end that, oh, they screwed him over, got the shield from him. He turned it over to them, and they went and just made their own Captain America. But he looks like the same guy, or the Captain America from the 1990 Captain America movie. If you're not familiar with that, don't watch it, but just look up pictures and you'll see what I'm talking about. He looked like the guy from that, and he came. Well, I don't think it is. That guy would be much older now, but he walks out and just kind of has this face like that, and it's like, I don't know if that was intentional to kind of make him look goofy or not, but he certainly does look goofy. It's not really me saying a bad thing about it. I kind of found it humorous. It was kind of like a oh my moment, but at the same time I was like, oh my, look at that guy. He looks like a fucking goofball. So I don't know where they're gonna take that. If this guy is gonna be like maybe going around and doing his Captain America thing, and they're going to meet up like in the field somewhere, and he's going to be like, I'm Captain America, back off, or something like that. I don't know. Clearly, Sam didn't want the shield, so he passed it off, and I don't know. I don't know where they're going to go with that. It was kind of a bit of a, oh, shit moment, but it wasn't. It was more like a, oh, damn moment instead of like an oh, shit moment. Who knows where they're going to go with it. Maybe it'll have more relevance after we see what they're going to do with that. Beyond that, there wasn't a ton. Oh, there is the one thing. The guy that Bucky, the one guy he talks to is this old Asian man. And he's the only guy he ever really hangs around, apparently, and speaks with. They go and like get dinner and things like that. And the man is always, or he's reminiscing about his son who was murdered at some place, and he was told, need to know basis, there's nothing. He was murdered. We find out that Bucky is the one who murdered him when he was the Winter Soldier. He was on a mission, and this guy's son was just wrong place, wrong time at a museum or something like that, and Bucky shot him and killed him, and total cold blood. But he was the Winter Soldier. He was under mind control. Just, take out all the witnesses. But he kills this guy, and then his best friend is sitting there talking about how my son, and that's when we make the connection is, oh, that was the kid he killed, or the young man he killed was this guy's son. And this guy doesn't know how. He just knows he was killed in a situation, and the government won't give him any more information about it. But Bucky knows. It leads you to believe, is that why Bucky, what are the chances? If I think that Bucky is actually, he sought this man out because he does have this list where he's going down and trying to right all his previous wrongs, and he's going to people and saying, I wronged you, and I'm sorry, blah blah blah, like the whole my name is Earl thing. And most of the people he's doing were actually like bad people he wronged, so he goes and kind of gets like vindication, but he's at the same time like, that's not me anymore, sorry, but you're an ass and you're going to jail or whatever. He does that to a character. But I'm thinking maybe he ran across this man, and this is his way of righting that wrong, is spending time with him and speaking with him and all this. Or maybe he just hasn't, built up the courage to say something to him yet, and he developed a friendship with him, and he's the only person he's able to talk to. I don't know. We don't really know how they met, how they came together. But that's what I'm thinking. I think that that's going to be a thing later on, kind of like it was with Tony and Captain America and him and the... in Civil War, not Civil War, the Winter Soldier. So I'm thinking that's going to come up at some time, the whole thing. Or maybe it won't. Maybe they won't be that contrived where they bring that up, and we'll just know that that's something. Because that scene right there was enough. That was enough for us to know, oh, this is his way of making amends with this man because he killed his son. He's here to, spend time with this lonely old man and put all his time with him. And maybe that's the only friendship he's been able to really develop since he died back in World War II the first time. So, I would like for them to leave it there. The old man could be in it more, but I feel like there's going to be a scene where the old man's going to find out, somebody's going to say something, and he's going to be like, or so, there's going to be a scene where he finds out that you did kill my son. I don't think that that's needed, though. I think that we all know that's what happened, and it just illustrates how Bucky's mind works and how he's really bothered by these awful things he did, and he wants to make amends. He doesn't know how, and he's doing the best he can. And I think that that's good enough, man. Leave it there. I think that would say a lot more to me about the underlying writing style of the people that are writing this show, and how that would be better writing to me, to leave that subtlety in there and never really bring it up, instead of having some contrived plot where the old man finds out Bucky did it and rejects him and all that. That's not needed. That's where I expect it to go. So if we get to season or episode 6 or 7, whatever the last episode is going to be, and that doesn't happen, I will be happy to report that, hey, they took the high ground and they said, hey, you guys are smart enough to understand that he's doing this for this reason, and this guy's, he's torn up about it. That's why he's going on about it. That's really the only spoilers in this thing. The only things I wouldn't mention about the show. Like I said, not a lot happened in the show, but at the same time, a lot happened, if that makes any sense. it didn't, like, not a lot of events happen, but we did learn a lot about these characters. And I did, I appreciated that. We learned a lot about, like, Sam and his sister and her son or sons, and where the family house and the boat that they own is like, they're having to sell it and wanting to get a loan, and how they go to the bank to get a loan, and even though he's an Avenger and the guy's like, oh, you're an Avenger, da 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 da, but since apparently Avengers don't have like steady income, we find that out too, that they can't give him a loan, and the guy's like, well, you haven't had any type of financial history for the past 5 years. He said, yeah, no, I've been gone with all the other people, the other half of the world, for the past 5 years. And the guy's like, well, sorry about that. Sorry about your luck, but we can't do business with you. And I was like, you know what? That's how a fucking bank is. That is exactly what they would do. Knowing something like this happened, they would still be like, well, yeah, we know that happened, and that sucks. And yeah, half the rest of the world was in the same boat, but not our fault. Sorry. So, but yeah, beyond those things, there's just not much else spoiler-wise to talk about here. But as I said in the first part of the review, I do suggest checking it out. It wasn't the most bombastic Marvel thing you've ever seen, but I thought it was a really neat little character piece, and I am interested to see where they're going to go with it from here. I hope they stay on track, and I hope the next 5 episodes are entertaining. So hope you guys enjoyed that little review, or kind of impromptu review. Like I said, I'm going to do that over the course of the next couple of weeks as this show comes out. See how it does, and if it does well, maybe I'll start doing more TV show reviews as they come out. Only other thing we've got this week really is releasing this week. As of today, March 23rd, we have Doors, which we have looked at on this channel and this show before, came out today, and Malibu Road. I'm not familiar with Malibu Road, but The Doors is something I will be checking out. It is going to be a little bit earlier next week before I get a review out of that, because I just got behind on some other stuff. Now, March 26th, aka Friday this week, we have Nobody, which I'm really looking forward to seeing. That actually got pushed back. It was supposed to be coming out April 2nd, and it got pushed back a week, which is good, I guess, but I wasn't expecting it. 6 Minutes to Midnight. I'm not familiar with that. I have heard of it, but I don't know what it is. The Seventh Day. Haven't heard good things about that little horror movie. And Shoplifters of the World. That's another one I don't know anything about. If any of these sound interesting to you, go check them out either today or on Friday when they come out. And as I mentioned, Doors and Nobody, I will absolutely be checking out here on the channel as over the course of the next few days. Now, that's about all I've got this week as far as the JARcast goes. What I'm working on the channel, as far as reviews go, I'm still working on kind of the video game movie review ranking videos and other things to kind of cap off that series. Got a bit behind on it, but that is coming soon. I have a review for a film called Drive All Night. That is a very interesting movie that is already shot and mostly edited. That will be coming very soon, if not tomorrow, the next day. Nobody, as I mentioned earlier. 2 more really interesting movies I got my hands on. I've already watched one. The other one I will be watching Thursday. One is called The Tangle, and the other one called Embryo, both of which are coming out here soon, and I will be having reviews of those up this week as the week goes on. Beyond that, though, I don't have much else. I did have 2 more things, though, that I wanted you guys to check out, just to kind of some new ventures I'm trying out here on the channel. For the brand, I should say. They're not big things. They're just some little things I thought, well, other people are doing it. Been thinking about doing these for a while just to kind of give it a shot and see what it does. It's not a tremendous amount more work for me because it is taking stuff that I already have on my channel and repurposing it. And I'm talking about, I have started a second YouTube channel that has current videos that I've made, but cut to a shorter version of themselves, and it is called the JAR60 channel, JAR60. They are 60-second movie reviews in a landscape, or not landscape, in a portrait mode that will be part of YouTube's Shorts new thing that they do, where when you're looking on YouTube, especially on mobile, sometimes you'll see the short shelf. It's just a bunch of looks like TikTok videos up there, pretty much up top. It's that. They show up in other places as well. It is just heavily edited versions of the reviews I've already done. Whether I'm going to put other stuff up there or not, I don't know as of yet. Maybe. But right now, I'm just, whenever I finish editing a review, I've got quite a few of them built up. I'm doing one a day for the next week. I'm just uploading one a day to see how it is, to kind of have a steady flow. But I would like, as you see here, I only have I have one subscriber, and I bet you can't guess who that subscriber is. So I just started this, not yesterday, but the day before. I have not told anyone about it. I haven't put it out there. I just started the damn thing and put it out there. Now, these videos typically don't pick up a tremendous amount of traction unless you make it onto what they call the short shelf. And I figured that maybe if I could just release enough of them, eventually I will make it onto the short shelf. And hopefully this channel could drive more traffic to my main channel. Or maybe people will find, enjoyment in these shorter, quicker versions of them. Because I feel like I get all the main points, at least more of an overview of the reviews in these reviews. So if it sounds like something you'd be interested in, check them out. They are presented in this
Arch Enemy
fashion.
stars Joe Manganiello, Skyland Brooks, Zoli Griggs,
Right
and
here.
Glenn Howerton.
Let's mute that. As you can see, they're all presented like this. So it's just heavily edited down from reviews that are already on my channel. Nothing new at the moment. But it takes a little bit of effort, but it's not like an insane amount of effort going into those. But I would appreciate it if any of you guys would check that out, and if you would like to subscribe, I would appreciate that greatly. That'd be awesome.